We are now going to play with this image with the same one that we were playing in Lightroom, but we're gonna add a little bit of more color and fun in Photoshop. So I'm gonna be showing you how you can use different layers and techniques to play with color and color grade your images in Photoshop. There are many things that you can use in Photoshop when it comes to color grading. I'm gonna walk you through pretty much every single one of them right now. So if you go here to your adjustment layers, you have plenty of options. Let's go from top to bottom. So if you want to color grade, you can easily use a layer adjustment, a levels adjustment layer. Then you can start playing with your RGB, and if you want to make things a little bit darker, you know already how this work. If you want your midtones a little bit darker, if you want your highlights a little bit brighter, this is pretty much how it works. If you want to open up your blacks, which I think that I will do here, is just I open up a little bit, so then we can add a little bit of color to it. This is going to create kind of a faded effect, but it works perfectly when you are color grading, because if you take a look at movies, if you take a look at art, rarely you see pure whites and pure blacks. So what we do is just we open up the blacks and we open up the whites just this way, and then we can go into the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, and we can add a little bit of color on them. I'm going to show you how. So we're in the RGB channel right now, then let's start with the blue channel. Or hold on, before we go there, let's go to the RGB channel and let's see if we want to make any adjustment here. I think that I want my darks to be a little bit darker, or I don't know, yes, my darks a little bit darker and open up my midtones a little bit. I think I like how it's looking right now. So now let's go to the blue channel. Perfect. So if you drag this black slider to the right, it's gonna add blue to your blacks. And if you drag this one to the left, you're gonna be incorporating some yellows to your highlights. So when I bet that you have been, you have listened before about cross processing. So this is a pretty easy way to color grade, and it's probably one of the most used. It is just dragging, adding some blue to your shadows and some yellows to your highlights. That looks good, but that's not the direction that I want to take today. So I'm just gonna play around and see what works with my image and with the vision that I have in my mind. Let me see, I don't even know if I want any yellows or any blues on my image. So what I'm gonna do, since I'm not sure what I wanna do here with the blue and the yellows, and that's totally okay because we are just testing and this is pretty much how I play around. I'm just gonna move and I'm gonna go to my green channel. And you know, here if you drag this one to the right, you're gonna be adding green to your shadows. And if you drag this one to the left, you're gonna be dragging red to your highlights. Now, if you drag this one, it's gonna be the complete opposite of the one below. So if you drag this one to the right, it's gonna be adding reds to your shadows. And if you drag this one to the left, it's gonna be adding some green to your highlights. So, I'm always drawn to these green highlights, but if I do that, which I will probably do, I'm gonna add a little bit of red. No, it's not what I want. Probably here is moving things around and testing to see if I like it or not. I don't need to commit to it. Let me go to the next channel, which is the red channel, the opposite of red is cyan, and the opposite of green is magenta, and the opposite of blue is yellow. So that's something that you have to keep in mind, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about it. But you can easily drag these sliders around just to see what colors are. But it's something good to keep in mind to see what colors are the opposites of the other ones, so it's easier for you to play around with this technique. So let's play with the reds, because I added some green, and now you see if I add a little bit of red over here, I still have the greens on the highlight, but I'm introducing a little bit of red so it doesn't make her face so unnatural with so much green on it. So I'm actually adding a little bit of more reds to the mid-tones this way. And let me play around here. I think that's good. I'm gonna go back to the green channel, and I'm gonna see if I want to add a little bit more. Yeah, I think I like, yep, is adding a lot of more color, and it looks, her skin looks more natural. So we're going in the direction that I want to go. So this is how you can color grade using levels. So you know, the RGB channel is gonna control your highlights and your midtones and your shadows, and also your black and your whites. So those are the values that you're gonna be playing in the RGB channel. Then you can go ahead and go to the blue channel, and the opposite of blue is yellow. Then you can go to the green channel, and the opposite of green is magenta, and then to the red channel, and the opposite of red is cyan. So it just takes a little bit of practicing and playing with those sliders to see what you can do. But I'm gonna show you another technique, and I probably, if you are starting things up with color grading, this is gonna be a lot easier for you to visualize. So you can do pretty much the same with curves, and we're gonna go to that in a little bit. You can stack all these layers. There is no problem about it. You can use a layer, and then a levels adjustment layer, and then you can use a curve, and then you can use anything that you want. You just keep in mind that if you keep adding and changing color, probably you're gonna get some bending, so you have to be very, very careful with that. So let's go ahead and let's add a color balance adjustment layer. So I'm gonna just turn off the levels adjustment layers that I use. I love the way it looked, but in order for me to show you a little bit how this color balance adjustment layer works, I just want to start from, you know, what we got from Lightroom. So here you have the midtones, and it's the first one that is going to show up when you add this adjustment layer. So you have the midtones, but if you click on here, you have your shadows and you have your highlights. I always love to start with my highlights. So this is pretty much what I was telling you with the levels adjustment layer. So if you drag this to the right, you're going to be adding blue to your highlights. If you drag this to the left, you're going to be adding yellow to your highlights. The same in this one on top. If you drag it to the right, it's going to be adding green, and if you drag it to the left, it's going to be adding magenta. All of these work the same way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on the levels adjustment layer that I created before, so I can stack this on top and we can see what we can create. So let me set this back to 0. Okay, let me see if I want to do anything with my highlights here. Probably. No, I think that I'm fine with the way that it was before. Green, I don't want any more green in there. And let me see if I want any more red. I'm actually gonna add a little bit of cyan. I know I'm trying to create a palette that is not a common one. Usually people use blue in the shadows and yellow in the highlights, or you have pretty much seen this thing that is all over Instagram and everywhere, that is people color grading using blue and orange. but I want this to look as a painting, and I have this image in my head that I can get away. So I'm just trying to kind of portray here what is on my mind. So I'm gonna be adding a little bit of yellow. It's just I'm doing like little tiny adjustments, and a little bit of green to the shadows, and yeah, a little bit of red to the shadows too here. Let me see. Yeah, okay, let me start here. I think it's too much red in the shadows. All right, this is looking good to me. Okay, so let's go and let me show you. I'm gonna hide these adjustments, and I'm gonna show you another way that we can color grade an image in Photoshop. Another technique that you can use, you can go here and you can add a selective color adjustment layer. And here in the colors you have your blacks, your white, and your neutrals, and then you can do adjustments on every other color that you have in your image. But if you want to color grade, let's start with the blacks. And in this one you have to be very careful, because the little bit that you can move things just a little tiny bit, and it affects a lot your image. So let's be careful. Like if this one are your blacks, so if you drag them to the right, you're gonna be making your blacks darker, and if you obviously go to the left, it's gonna look beautiful. No, it's not. So I'm just gonna leave them the way they are, but I wanna show you how you can add color to it. As you can see, if I add a little bit of, if I drag it to the right, I will be adding yellow, and what's the opposite of yellow is blue. So if I drag it to the other side, it's gonna be adding blue to the blacks. So I don't even know if but probably let's do like, you know what? Let me turn this on, because my two other adjustment layers, because I don't want to just play with this one and then it's not gonna match the other ones below. So let's stack this on top, and here with all the adjustments that I did, I don't want to do anything with the blacks over here. Now this is fading it a little bit. If I drag it, just let's do 1%. Is it doing anything? Just a little tiny bit. It's fading it, and I want the image to be a little bit faded. So yeah, that's 2. I actually will do -2 on this, -1 on this one, because I just want everything to be very, very subtle. You can do the same in the neutrals. If you go to the right, they will get darker. If you drag it to the left, they're gonna be lighter. And same if you do in here with your neutrals. If you want everything more yellow, if you want left, it's just the same concept. Just drag, one side is yellow and the other side is the opposite color. So you can do the same with your whites. I don't think that we have any whites here on this image. I usually try to keep my whites very, very low. As I say, when you look at movies and when you look at paintings, you barely see like pure white or pure black on those images. So here is that was another way that you can add color, or you can color grade your images. That's another technique that is very useful. I didn't, let me say, I did very subtle changes with that selective color that I'm gonna keep, and that's totally fine. Another way, and I know I'm going really fast, is just something that you can play around with any image. Just try adding color using those sliders back and forth to enhance the colors of your pictures. So another way that we can add a little bit of color is using a gradient map. So here's a gradient map. Oh, it doesn't look good. It doesn't matter. Just come here, double click. So something that I would like to this image, and I think that it will be helpful to the tones, will be like adding a little bit of browns. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add a really dark brown here. Big. That's too reddish. Let's go to a little bit more orangey tone. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm gonna click OK. Then I'm gonna click here and I'm gonna double click in the square over there to pick another color, and this time we're gonna pick a lighter brown and we're gonna click OK. Then another thing that I can do is I can click in here and I can add another point, and I can double click in the square, and then I'm gonna add some color that it will kind of look like skin color, and that's fine. And then I'm gonna just keep the whites kind of whites. Let's do something like, it's not pure white, it's over there. So, oh, Hilmar, that looks horrible, and that's totally fine. We're gonna be adding this, but we're gonna change the blending mode to soft light. Obviously, this is too much, but if we drag it a little bit, then we're gonna see like a little bit of contrast and adding those brown tones to the image. So that's too much, and that's looking good. So I like the tones, I like the colors here in the image. I think that they're pretty cool, but I think that for my taste, for what I want on this image, they are way too saturated. So I'm gonna do a hue and saturation layer, and I'm just gonna drag it down like about 10 and check before and after, and then we can go and I'm gonna create a curves adjustment layer, and then I'm gonna light things up a little bit. Actually, let me see if I play around here with my contrast instead. No, I don't like how this is looking. Maybe fade it a little bit here. And yeah, I think this is looking good. I'm gonna lower my whites a little bit on this side. So I don't know if you are familiar with curves or not, but let me reset this curve so I can kind of guide you on what I'm doing. If I drag this down, I will lower my whites. If I drag it up this way, I will be increasing them. Same here. If I drag this way, I will be darkening my blacks. And if I drag it up, I will be lighting my blacks. So if you want to use a faded look on your image, you can drag a little bit up on your blacks, and a little bit down on your whites, and you can see that it has created a kind of a faded effect. Then you can play around with it, like you can lower or increase your midtones, or you can create like an S curve, but it's going to be still a faded one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag those points out to get rid of them, and I'm going to probably lower this down. So if you want to color grade with curves, that is another technique that you can use. You can go ahead and click in here, and you can see all the channels, the blue channel, the green channel, and the red channel. How do you apply colors in them? Well, I'm going to show you how. Let's go to the blue channel. If you want to add yellows to your highlights, you drag this down. If you want to add blues to your shadows, you drag this down. Then you can even play around like this. Or if you want to be to create more specific adjustment to whatever area you want to adjust, you can just get the little hand over here and click on the areas that you want to adjust. Here, like I want to add a little bit of yellow in here, and probably let's see if we could add a little bit of blues and the shadows, and let's go to the red channel, and we could add a little bit of red in here, but I don't like how it's looking on her face though. So if you don't like the point that you are adding, you can just click on it and drag it out, and no problem. So I'm gonna add a little bit of red, just a little tiny bit over there. And you know, the same with the greens. If you drag this down, it adds magenta. If you drag it up, it adds greens. If you drag it all the way out, you get rid of that point. Same here, you can add some magentas to your highlights by dragging this down, and then some greens to your shadows by dragging these up. You know, the best way that I always say to learn Photoshop and anything in this world is just experimenting and testing and playing around. And that's the way pretty much that I learned how to do everything and how I created my style. It's just I went, you know, ahead and I started playing with these adjustments until I found a look that I like. So I like this fading thing that I did in Photoshop with the curves adjustment layer, but I think that is too much. So I'm just gonna drag the opacity down and keep it like this. And let me see, this is how we started and this is how we are now. I think that I will just select all these layers, just like this, command click on all of them, and then click here in this folder, and they're gonna put all of these layers on a folder, and we're gonna call it color grading, right? So that way it's gonna keep our workflow really organized. So let's see if I lower the opacity of all of these a little bit and see what we get. That's great. I love the way it looks, and it's looking painterly the way that I wanted it to look. Let's see if we add a little bit of brightness and contrast just to finish it up, and then I'm gonna show you some of the adjustments that I like to do just to end up this kind of images. Okay, so I love the way this looks right now. It looks like a painting. I think that I accomplished what I wanted. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna save it. I'm gonna save it as a Photoshop file. I'm gonna save it over here. We are going to call it Nora's Flowers 1, and we're gonna save it. And then I'm gonna show you a couple of things that I'm gonna do to it, and then we're gonna move on to another picture.